Coming to you live from the offices of Chapter One Films in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the 4D Podcast with your hosts, Nathaniel Levinson, Greg Prinz, and Liam Maxwell. A new dimension in entertainment. This is the 4D Podcast.
We're back.
What are we, Liam?
We are so back. And when I say we, I mean two people.
We're not all back,
We're not all back.
but some of us are.
have you ever This is why I feel like we did an episode together. Remember I told the anecdote of Wally Pipp?
Wally Pipp?
Yeah. He was the guy who played in front of Lou Gehrig for the Yankees. Do you recall this conversation we had?
We did have.
And then Wally Pipp got sick one game. Lou Gehrig took over and then played for like 3,000 games in a row.
Yeah, but wasn't that like wasn't that for the baseball episode? No?
No, I swear. Maybe if someone's viewing and they remember what episode we did, just me and Greg. Anyway,
If you're wondering why you
I'm
can't see
replacing
me right
Nathaniel.
now, is because I'm trying to get the camera that faces me to get set up here, because I accidentally clicked. Here, you guys can actually look at what. There we go. This is what's going on right now, because I'm using an old GoPro. Oh, I figured it out. Exit. Ha ha! We're back.
I thought it was just going to be on me the
You
entire
gotta,
hour.
you were gonna totally abandon the Lou Gehrig.
The lights would have gotten way too bright.
No, I did it again.
Anyway, guys. Anyway, viewers. I
Liam,
guess
tell
it's
him what's
just
going
me.
on, man.
So, Nathaniel's tummy hurts.
Oh my gosh. Actually, we have a double for Nathaniel in today, and we can actually we can ask him how he's feeling. Nathaniel,
How are you doing?
wow.
It's a much more bearded version of me.
He speaks with a lot less words, I think, than normal Nathaniel, you might say.
He's a bit paler. Oh, I
a
would
bit
certainly say that.
Wow.
Oh, sorry, Nathaniel. I know he's
Shots
watching.
fired.
You're a good lad. We miss you here in the studio.
Liam just said, Nathaniel, you talk too much, man. He can take that.
I'm just
though.
saying it's a low bar from this guy over here. I think everybody talks a little bit more.
All right, so today we are going to do just kind of like a state of things, right? Just kind of a what is the state of movie watching in theaters right now? Kind of over the course of a month or so, we've watched 3 different. I would say they're pretty starkly different movies. One a pretty indie type action movie, and one a blockbuster, and one a thriller from a very new director in M. Night Shyamalan's daughter.
Yeah.
And so we watched the new Planet of the Apes movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We watched a movie called Monkey Man, starring Dave Patel, that Jordan Peele actually picked up and kind of hopped on board with. So Patel and
right.
Peele, I guess Patel directed it. But
Patel's
Peele was-
directorial debut.
Yes, but Peele was a part of the production process. And then we also watched The Watchers, which is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, whose name is blank Shyamalan.
Ishalana.
Eshelana?
I think that's actually correct. Yeah.
Wow, dude. I mean, you're racist if you're wrong. So
bold call. By
I don't know
me
why
to
you would even try to
assume
do
what
that.
The thing is.
which is we watched The Watcher. She directed. And we planned on watching one more. It left theaters, so I think in the future when we kind of do these state of things, we'll try to spread out and maybe get 4 movies.
Yeah.
Just because we want to get our finger on the pulse of what movies nowadays are looking like. I think that people have a lot of thoughts on, well, do you like movies now that are coming out in theaters? And we often have a lot to say, but on this cast, we're usually not watching movies in theaters. So
Current event in it.
yeah,
A little bit more.
current eventing it, if you will.
I also, I have watched 4, which I don't think you've watched this 4th one. I watched Civil War,
Okay,
which
Yeah,
I can
that's
touch
right.
on very briefly at some point. But like,
Yeah, I'm not.
I've been back.
I'm not an idiot, so
I've been- I've been back in the theaters, man, and boy, has it been disappointing.
has it been rough? I mean,
boy, does it feel
I don't know what you're
bad.
thinking about at home, but we're not going to have, I mean, at least from my point of view, these aren't going to be great reviews.
No.
At the very best, you're going to get some mediocre thoughts from Greggy.
Yeah.
And we'll see what Liam and even Nathaniel, if you will, has to say.
Probably won't have anything to say, but
I think he won't have to say much.
it's been a pretty brutal summer for movies.
Yeah.
Like summer's usually the hot season for like all these movies, and I forget when Oppenheimer came out, but I feel like last summer was decent. But man, there's nothing.
when was Barbenheimer? Yeah, when did that happen?
It felt like it maybe end of last summer, but not only is there the movies that I've seen recently that have been just meh, it would be the word. There's not a whole lot to look forward to either.
Yeah, I mean, when people tell me, "Oh, like this is coming out," like, what do you think? Are you gonna go and see it? My posture is almost always no.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I have no interest in seeing a movie like that, just because my expectations are so low. It's and I do this kind of mental exercise where I'm like, okay, picture seeing that trailer and hearing these things 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I'm like, maybe I am excited to see something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Maybe I've just been so totally capsized by movies nowadays.
Yeah, and I love going to the movies. So like
going to the movies is great.
by default, I'll go.
Right.
But I kind of like, unfortunately, I go into these a lot of times and I'm like, well, it's not going to be great. Or it's like, at the best, it's going to be like,
Not
okay,
great, Bob.
that was a fine 2 hours. But like, man, a lot of times the 2 hours just drags on with a lot of these movies I've seen
Well,
recently.
it's tough too because most of them aren't even 2 hours.
Yeah.
They're pushing
They're
3
pushing it.
hours.
Yeah, they're pushing 3 hours.
And I was just having this conversation with somebody where I was saying, movies are getting worse and they're getting longer, which is really not a good
Horrible
direction to be
combination.
having, and it's
Yeah.
really not good when you talk about viewing in theaters because that's the last thing you want to do because then you have to sit through 30 minutes of previews.
Mm-hmm.
You factor in driving there, driving back, and you're like, do I want to waste 4.5 hours of my day? Like, not sure. Like,
For these types of movies?
yeah, exactly. For a movie that I'll probably be disappointed in.
Yeah.
I don't know. It becomes a more tough decision.
I
but-
watched, I don't know if this was your experience with The Watchers, but there was at least 8 previews. At least, not even exaggerating. There's 8 previews, and all of them look like they sucked.
Well, that's just like, so I watched it with Nathaniel, and Nathaniel always tries to guess the number of previews we're about to see,
Yeah.
and then the number of them that he'll be interested in. And he's like, we're going to see 8 previews, and I'm going to be interested in, I think he might have said 0. He's like, I'm not going to be interested in it. We watched this at like cinema, whatever, one of those like meal cinema places where it's mainly about eating. So it was a little different, like, there was a bunch of ads just for the actual theater itself.
Right.
And there was actually, so there's only like 3 trailers or something, which was
Okay.
excessively low. We
Yeah.
both were like, oh,
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
it was that. But they spent like 15 minutes talking to us about why we should keep watching movies there. It was stupid. But yeah, and he was like, yeah, I don't want to see any of these. I actually surprisingly was like, hey, I think I might see 2 of those.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Well, yeah. So one of them is M. Night Shyamalan's new movie called
Trap.
Trap.
Okay. That one actually looked okay.
So this is my thing about Shyamalan. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a big OG M. Night Shyamalan fan. So in my opinion, his big 4, which is what put him on the map, which was Signs, The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and The Village. The Village is probably on that edge of some. I
Yeah.
think he lost some of his fans there, but I actually thought that was just as good as the original 3.
enjoyed The
So
Village.
I think those 4 movies puts him on a status that's really high. Like, man, when you make movies, I have to see it.
Yeah.
Since then, he's probably made like 6 or 7 movies.
Yeah.
They're pretty much all like ranging from mediocre to bad,
Mm-hmm.
which you could say Split was solid.
Yeah.
I thought it was, again, mediocre, solid. But most of them being bad.
Mm-hmm.
But because I'm such a big fan of those first 4, I always hold out
Yeah.
hope. I'm like, this could just be a banger. He has the ability.
They call that, I got season tickets. Right? I got season tickets to Scorsese. I got season tickets to Tarantino.
That's
I'm
pretty
watching
good.
it. I'm watching it. I got season tickets for Leo. Like, you can have season tickets for an actor, actress, or director.
You see,
Yeah.
I've got season tickets for Nolan and for Shyamalan.
And Nolan, of course. How was Nolan? That's the first one I mentioned. Yeah.
And pretty much nobody else, honestly.
Yeah, it's fair.
I mean, even Scorsese, the problem with Scorsese is he's doing the thing that I mentioned, whereas his movies are getting longer. He's getting, forgive my language, he's getting further up his own ass. And his movies are getting worse and more boring. And so I'm not particularly, like, his last 2 movies combined for, like, over 7 hours.
Was it Killers and Once Upon a Time?
Killers and what was it, The
I don't know, Once Upon a
Irishman?
Time was Tarantino. Yeah, The Irishman.
The Irishman was like, what, 3 hours, 45 minutes?
Oh, my goodness.
And Killers of the Flower Moon was 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're looking at like almost 7.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brutal.
It was definitely intentional to put The Irishman on Netflix straight away because you almost had to view it in like 2 different movies.
Yeah.
And like no one would be willing, like you just said, to go to the movie theaters, watch previews,
Yeah.
and then sit through a nearly 4-hour movie that's mostly just like build up.
Or view it
It's not even build up.
or watch it in no viewings, if you will.
Yeah, or that. Yeah,
Just not watch it.
That's a very viable option.
But I guess my thing is, here we are even talking about the directors, the actors that we like, that we go and have season tickets to, and we watch all the movies. And even those are just, even when you have one that's solid, you're like, oh, it's great. It's nothing like what they used to be, and that's just such a shame.
Nothing like what they used to be.
It's really a shame because
Yeah.
we had this big buffer period, I feel like, between really interesting, creative, unique movies that you're like, oh man, we can look back on Gladiator and, you know, The Patriot and all these movies that were just kind of like amazing and just original ideas and you know, box office hits as well as getting acclaim in the academies. And then there was this giant 15-year like fever dream of superhero movies.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not that they were bad. I really like Marvel's phases 1 through 3.
Yeah.
Like it's their fault for actually doing a good job. They did a great job.
Right.
They did something that people hadn't done before. They blended 27 different movies.
They made a universe.
Yeah, they created their own universe to where anything that could happen in one movie, you were just waiting to see what kind of weird crossover they'd have with one of the other ones you saw, and like you felt like you needed to watch one to get the kind of Easter eggs for the next one. It was a really intriguing thing that just hadn't been done, and I was swept away. And it was almost just the sheer excitement of it and entertainment, and less of me critiquing a movie and just being like, wow, this is just great. Just give me more of this, whatever the heck it is. I want to see more of it. And then all of a sudden that faded away and you're like, oh wait, movies suck now.
Yeah, I know. In a land of like so much media that we live in nowadays, people want to be a part of like a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
And like Avengers was a cultural phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody who's anybody saw that in theaters. Like at least our age, I should say. But
Yeah.
like if you didn't see it in theaters, you were missing out on something.
Yeah.
That's why like I used to talk about like back in the old day when like Seinfeld was like it was like the show that everybody watched, and like the finale of Seinfeld, the streets of New York were like empty. Like everyone wants to be a part of like a cultural phenomenon.
Right.
That's why Barbenheimer was so big.
Right, because everybody's doing it. Like,
Yeah.
As soon as they can convince people, maybe convince is the wrong word, but get people excited about a certain thing, and then everybody else looks around and goes, what are you guys so excited about? And they figure out what that thing is. That's when it just kind of builds on itself. It's self-sustaining at that point.
Exactly.
And it's starting to grow off of its own excitement.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I bet you like back when like my parents were growing up, if you were to be like, hey, have you ever seen this movie or this TV show? The answer would always be yes, because there's just such limited media. Now it's like, how often is someone like, yo, you should check out this show. You ever heard of this show? And it's like, never even heard of it.
Oh, I know.
What streaming platform is that on? Oh, it's on Plexi. It's like, what? Okay. Well, that'll never be watched.
It's on Tubi
Yeah, it's on
or
Fubo.
Fubo TV
It's on
if you
Fubo
want.
TV.
It's like, oh, how could I have missed that?
Yeah.
My fault. Like, I really need to get with the times. If you're watching right now and you're wondering why you can't jump in the chat or comment, it's because you haven't subscribed. So drop us a quick like or subscribe. And tell us what your movie experiences have been as of late. If you're a fan of modern movies, if you like going to the theaters, if you think it's changed over time.
Who do you have season tickets to?
Yeah, who do you
I'd be
have
curious
season
to that.
tickets? That's a great question.
I got a sneaky one that you might disagree with that I actually think I have season tickets to.
I probably will
As a director.
disagree with it.
As a
Okay.
director, because his name is going to be involved in these 3 movies. Jordan Peele.
Really?
Yeah.
How
Get
quick
Out,
did
Get
you
Out,
jump on?
Us, and Nope all were very. Nope was a little bit of a drop off quality wise, but very interesting concepts that has never like
Really?
in a world where it's all IP or sequels or prequels. Very interesting and novel concepts, and so I'm in just for like the uniqueness of it.
I thought that Get Out was great. Like,
Yeah.
in its own regard, as an isolated story, great. I thought that I thought that what is it? Us?
Us, yeah.
I thought Us was more of the same, and just I was like, oh, he's got his one card and he's playing it again. And then Nope was just bad.
You didn't like Nope?
No, Nope.
I would like to rewatch Nope.
I wouldn't.
I would actually like to go back to that.
Maybe we'll watch tomorrow. No, we won't.
No, we won't.
Nope. All right. So, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about before. We jumped into our 3 movies here. Dang it! I should write down my thoughts. I'll think about it later. But let's do it. Let's jump into to our first of these 3 movies. So let's talk about Monkey Man. So I'll do the synopses. We don't have Nathaniel. Nathaniel, you want to give it a shot?
I got a sore throat today.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay, that's all right.
You can rest.
You know what we'll do? I'll do the synopses. I'll make it quick, and then we'll kind of jump into our conversation. So, Monkey Man. So Monkey Man takes place in India. It kind of opens on this guy who's involved in underground fighting. You get the idea that he's in a tough financial situation, I guess you can say, and probably just a tough situation in life. He's just run down. And he's making moves to get his way up into this big company. He's kind of scheming his way into like just getting like a waiter job, for this one big, I just call it a building. It's just like there's just like business people, and he's like, hey, I want to get in with this, and you can kind of get the idea that these are mobsters. He gets in. And it's slowly kind of feeding you a little bit that this is all for revenge, right? Like he's out for revenge on certain people in this place that wronged him. You're unsure of why they wronged him. The movie progresses. There's a lot of fighting. He gets beat up. You're led on to more of his backstory. You find out, I don't know exactly at what time because it keeps doing the flashbacks and stuff, but you find out at one point or another that this bad dude who kind of has like influence over all of India at the time. He's like I guess you'd call him a politician, but he's also kind of like a religious figure, like kind of like a guru.
He's like a puppet master.
Yeah,
he has politicians in his pocket.
He's pulling all the strings, and he had made this military group move into Dave Patel's village and kill them all, just so he could make way for whatever he was building. And there was one of the soldiers that killed and raped his mother. And so this is why he's coming out for revenge.
Yeah.
And then he gets it. There's a weird middle segment we'll talk about where his training montage period where he loses and then kind of gets restored and grows and then kind of comes back with a vengeance and fights. And yeah, at the end he gets his revenge. He kills the baddies. And that is the movie. So we watched this together. I know your broad stroke thoughts. So what did you think about this movie, kind of all in all?
Well, I think we'll have similar thoughts in the ending for sure. I thought the first like 30 to 40 minutes was really captivating. I loved like the build up with him in the wrestling ring and like trying to like piece together the puzzle as to why he's doing these things.
Yeah.
I thought the flashbacks were good. I thought the choreography was great. The fight scenes were awesome. Dev Patel is trained in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Which is legit.
Hey, I don't like him.
That's legit. That's actually so sick. I didn't know that when I watched that, but he is a cool dude.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's
Dave
a
Patel,
handsome man.
He just kind of like, he's tall and lanky, but he actually, so as for somebody that's just like a big MMA guru, like I love watching MMA. He does look like he could be a kickboxer, like just some tall, lanky kickboxer.
He's athletic,
and like
dude.
that would work for
But
him.
like I like that I went into this movie knowing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
I really just went into knowing like Indian John Wick.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
That is how it was marketed.
Yeah.
That's how it marketed itself.
Which I'm like, cool. If that's like all
Yeah.
John Wick was like, it wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't deep.
No.
He was getting revenge for his dog, really,
Right.
at its core. So it's like, and it knew what it was. So that's great. So I was like, okay, maybe this is cool. This is like an Indian John Wick, like a spin on it. Like it's
Right.
in this like, I guess it's in Delhi or maybe it's in Mumbai. I think I read, or it's supposed to be in like Mumbai. But I was in. Then it started getting real weird.
It got weird.
Unbelievably weird. Like you won't even guess where it could possibly go.
If you haven't seen this movie, hearing what the middle montage segment is, you'll either think one of two things. You'll either think one. This is most people will be. I think everybody will just think this. You think we're joking. You're 100% think that we're just joking.
Yeah.
Or that we're like wildly over exaggerating what we're about to say.
Yeah.
But I kid you not. It is. I'll let you.
Well, so what brings him into that original play? He falls into
he's chasing the baddies. This is his first attempt to go kill this guy. He has a kind of standoff with him at a nightclub. Like he's gotten that waiter position.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is one of the movies still fairly interesting. Mm-hmm. He's got the waiter position. You're not sure why he keeps moving up this company, but he's got this so now he's serving like cocaine and drinks at this really the top penthouse to all these goons and mobsters. And so he finally sees the guy that he hates, and you don't know why he hates him yet. Again, so there's still intrigue. But he hates him, and then he starts a fight with him, in the bathroom, and it's this long fight sequence. It ends with him in this car chase sequence, and then eventually falling into a river.
Yeah. And he comes to.
I think he gets shot too. He's beat up pretty bad. He's been stabbed and shot, and so he falls in this river, and then he comes to. And
then he comes to in this civilization or community.
We'll call it like a monastery. It's like a temple.
Yeah,
we'll
it's
call
like
it
a temple. And everyone in the community is transgender.
Wait, female, male,
male with female traits.
Liam Maxwell's hot takes.
This is real.
You had
really
no idea how to explain. You're like, man.
I'm like, what's our viewership here?
Okay, so just it's a bunch of dudes in dresses.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of old Indian dudes, not all old, but most of them old Indian dudes in dresses, and they've collected him out of the water, and they're in this temple.
And they are who trains him back to full power.
Yeah,
to power that he didn't even have prior. Like they unlock something in him.
Like they don't exactly train in the sense of they're not going through martial arts training with them. They give him some weird powdered
hallucinogenic
root thing, and he goes through a big trip, and then he gets out. And I think the idea was supposed to be. This is so fun. Like it's such a stretch to really understand it's such an acid trip. Mm-hmm. So they give him this stuff, and he's loopy, and then he comes to, and now all of a sudden he's motivated to fight, and it's almost like. Is the idea that he found his motivation? Now he's fighting for something instead of. But the idea, I mean, he was fighting for revenge, and you could call it, if you want to spruce it up, call it justice. He's fighting for justice. Right. But in reality, it's just its own revenge for this thing that happened, which was bad, right? Like we can all get behind a revenge flick.
Yeah.
Although we'll get to the end when it gets there, but you wish there was more to it than how simple it was.
And I guess I read it as they're trying to add a layer to his purpose. Of, like you said, fighting for something, and that for something is like the oppressed, the marginalized, the hidden, the shamed. Because I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but there's a caste system in India, right?
Yeah.
And if you're in that bottom tier, you can't get up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. And there's also a level to watching this. Again, on our side, here in the States, where I'm sure there are things that are missed where you're like, I don't understand what this is culturally. How am I supposed to exactly take what's going on here? And I think you're exactly right. It is dealing with the politics in India and how that caste system is so extreme to where it's not even thought of. For what I'm told, again, I agree. I probably do sound like an idiot as well. But from what I'm told, it's very much it's just understood. Even if you're oh, this isn't great, you don't associate with people in classes below you and all this stuff. Again, could be talking in ignorance, but this is how it's explained to me. So yes, to your point, I think it was the idea of, hey, we're very obviously in this group. I guess they're like super hippie group of
real group, by the way.
Really,
in India,
really,
yes.
Oh,
real group.
That makes it very.
It's
interesting.
It's called the Hijra.
Nice, you nailed that.
Third gender in India.
Oh.
This is a real thing. And I'm not like making this up. This was like reading the synopsis and like the background behind the movie. Like that was what they were going for.
Okay,
this
so
is the Hijira.
So the Hijira find
Yeah.
him, and they're, I guess, represented as the lowest class. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, look, it's not just that you getting revenge. It's also, you could affect change in some way by doing this.
And obviously the villains are the oppressors. Like they're
Right.
the high ups, they're the politicians,
Yeah.
they're the mobsters or whatever you want to call the main guy.
Right.
So it's a caste system, like it's
Yeah.
a take on caste system. Which is, I mean, at face value, like I understand that too. I
yeah,
think there's power behind that.
Yeah, and I don't really think there was any problem with the messaging. Like the baddies were clearly bad. Like there were
Right.
some evil dudes. The guru guy poses as like this wise leader, but in reality, he's just manipulating everybody, and
Yeah.
he's pretty dirty. And then obviously his goons that actually go out and do these things are awful. They raped and killed his mother. So again, very bad people. You want the revenge just like he wants the revenge. And he goes and he gets it. And the idea that, hey, that this could not just be for you, but this could be standing up for all the people that are getting pushed around by this evil baddie. Great.
Yeah,
That's
he's a
great.
symbol of the lesser. I actually read that, and I do have this in my notes, that it's supposed to be like the dark side of Mumbai, similar to like Gotham City is not a real city. Like the city named in Monkey Man is not a real Indian city.
Okay.
But it's supposed to represent like the darkness of Mumbai, which is Gotham City is New York.
Sure. Yeah.
So
yep,
like
yep.
that being kind of similar to Batman, and also like Batman being a symbol for the oppressed. I think there's ties there as well. So again, and obviously we love Batman here. There's good stuff. There's kernels of a good movie here.
Well, Batman's not a symbol of the oppressed. Batman is a symbol of justice, of
Okay, yeah.
incorruptible
Yeah, but
justice,
yeah, that's
and
true.
and he is a very non-oppressed man. I think the idea
That's true.
that is intriguing about Batman is that he is this billionaire, has it all kind of guy, and yet he's more depressed than anybody because as a child he watched his parents get shot and killed in front of him by an
Yeah.
oppressed person,
Right.
Or I don't know, you want to call him oppressed. He was just a mobster, but so his story's a bit different. However, I do agree with you. Yes,
Yeah.
if you were just to say, "Hey, this is the message of the movie," yeah, that sounds fine. I think the execution of it is where it gets distracting.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
because so that sequence in the middle, and maybe it's just from not being as normalized with just like, I mean, visually it's 100%. It's just a bunch of like, it's a whole bunch of old Indian dudes, and they're all in dresses and stuff and makeup, and like they're super hippie. They're just playing the drums and just I don't know if they're coked out on all this like weird hallucinating
drugged out,
drugs,
yeah.
and it's a lot hitting you all at once, and you're like, okay, how long are we gonna stay
It
here?
was
Is this
such
gonna
a left turn.
It
too.
was a very quick turn, and I'm like, oh, this is and so let's just pretend that you're unaffected by anything like that. That it doesn't distract you at all. You still have to look at that and be like, all right, you had this movie that everybody could get behind. That was very clear cut. Hey, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, and you have this part happen where again these people aren't doing anything wrong or evil. I mean, but they're very distracting to somebody who I don't know, who might not find that to be the most normal thing, and the movie obviously they get you out of this is the second act. They get you through the second act where he's training, and all of a sudden now he's empowered, and he goes and we'll circle back to this because they make another appearance. But so after this point, we're like, okay, thoroughly just kind of confused after all of that. And then he kind of he's super strong now, I guess, that he's fighting with purpose. You know, he used to fight with his monkey mask back in his underground street fighting days, and so he pulls it back out. He dunks it in bleach. It's now turned white. You know, he gets it back on. He's going to go face the baddies again.
I think the other important through line is the Monkey Man persona is not just one he came up with. Like it's inspired by a real god in India,
Right.
Hanuman, who is like monkey-like in appearance,
Right.
And so like there's often like preachings on him like mixed throughout. I think he's in the temple too, or is that another god? That
I'm
there's,
not
like, a
sure if he's in the temple, but
statue?
yes, there are several callbacks to his mother kind of telling him the story. The movie might have opened with that, actually.
Yeah.
Him just kind of, or the mother kind of just saying the story. They don't go super deep into the, whatever you want to call it, theology
Yeah.
of of that, of the backstory. It's kind of left really surface level, as I can't remember the exact story of the monkey god, but it's like he did this, he was angry about that, and so he ate the sun or something.
Yeah, I think he represented just like strength and courage.
Yeah.
I think that's about as deep as it gets.
Yeah, it doesn't really land on that super hard. But yes, the idea of being the monkey man is his connection to his mother, of him being like, okay, she taught me about all this stuff, and she's obviously the region for his revenge, so he seeks that for power. So he wears the monkey mask when he fights. Mainly just gets beat up in these underground street fights. But anyways, got the bleach one on now, goes to see all the baddies. He's put it on for about 5 minutes. As soon as he gets to all the baddies, takes it off. You never see it again.
It's kind of sick, though. It kind of looks sick.
It looks sick, but then he takes it off immediately.
Yeah, why does he do that? It must be hard to see.
It's because of the star power of people. They're like, oh, well, Dave Patel is the draw to the movie. We can't have him just hiding in a monkey mask. At that point, it could just be anybody.
It's not Dave Patel, by the way.
It's what
Dev.
Dev. Okay, I keep saying Dave. Sorry, that was
Dave. The Americanized Dev Patel.
I hit myself with a horn. I deserve
Dave Paddle.
David Paddle. Anyways, so he's basically working his way up this building, just beating the crap out of people, and then he gets to this one room where he's beat up several dozen people, but then all of a sudden all these doors open and there's a bunch more, and he's like, oh, what do I do now? Lo and behold, from doors or curtains or somewhere in the room,
Unknown,
a bunch of grown men wearing dresses pop out.
the
Hijira, and they're all holding weapons.
Some of them useful, others a bit silly.
Maybe. So one of them has just essentially like a whole roll of dynamite. That's what it looks like. Maybe it's fireworks.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
really
explosives
know.
of some
But
kind.
steps in the room like a badass, lights it. Never heard from again. You never see an explosion. It's just he just lit some dynamite, and then all the other ones pull out sickles and swords and all kinds of stuff, and then there's just this giant fight. I'm sorry, it's very distracting, and it's just you're just watching it going, all right. Well, even the message that you agree with. And again, I'm not saying, oh, I would hate this. That all these people are wrong. No, it's fine. It's. But the vision, I mean, you it's what I just explained. That's actually happening. So in this movie that is, kind of cool and action packed, it's just all of a sudden So anyways, so there's this funny point where there's like the big bad girl. There's this woman on the bad side, and she's like, hey, I'm here and I'm fighting people, and she beats people up, and she gets into Dev Patel, and you're like, oh, is he gonna just slap this girl? Is he gonna beat her up? And you're like, wait. Are the other dudes wearing dresses going to beat her up? That wouldn't be a great look either.
Right.
So then, the one actual female good character steps out and, punches her. And you're like, okay.
Okay. They landed there appropriately.
But anyways, he works his way up. He kills the main bad military guy who, killed his mom. And then he makes his way to the guru guy who kind of stabs him a couple times pretty bad. But then he ends up killing the guru guy. There you go.
There you go. There's nothing else.
It is... You take away all of the bizarreness in the middle act and in the the just total left turn. The movie still is just so, in my opinion, surface level and basic, and there was nothing to it. So let's do a little comparison to John Wick, just because I think it deserves that. John Wick 1 introduces a character who is mysterious and he's likable, right? Because he's soft-spoken, he's quiet, doesn't mean anybody harm, doesn't really want to do much other than live his life, and he has this dog that was given to him by his deceased wife, and it's like, oh, this is sweet. And somebody comes in and disrupts that in a really, really egregious way, kind of in your face, by beating him up, stealing his car, and killing this cute dog, right?
Yeah.
Which is just today's the moral. Not saying that's the moral equivalent of the mom being killed, but I'm just saying, as far as how it was communicated to as a message in a movie, I think you cared about that a lot more.
People can cling on to that.
Because that happened right away. It wasn't what is the mystery? So there was no mystery as to what happened. So the intrigue of the movie was just how badass is this John Wick guy, because he's really mad. He's representing me as the mad viewer. And I'm glad it's him, because he seems really good at all this stuff. And you're slowly seeing some of the best parts of the movies are just the bad people reacting to the idea that it is John Wick. They're like, wait, it's John Wick that you killed his dog? Okay, we're all dead.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's really cool, right? So the whole movie is, and they keep the just the story. I wouldn't say it goes far to say as it's simple. It's just that the world that they create with all these assassins is like they don't dive super deep into it. They're just like, hey, there's this underground world of assassins. They have their own currency. They have their own system of how to clean up dead bodies, of where they can lodge, of the rules when they lodge places. And that's pretty much, we're not going to dive super. The next ones dive super deep into the lore in the background, and it gets worse. But they create a character who's very, very likable, and he doesn't have to talk much because he's like, look, that's not the point of these movies. The point is to find out how amazing I am at this action stuff.
Yeah.
This movie didn't really try to do that. It was marketed that way, and I think the differences in the movies is that this one, that you don't know why the revenge is there, but you know it's there, but you don't know the reason for it yet. So you're like, okay, well, maybe this could build some intrigue. Like, I'm curious to know what it is. But the problem is, like, all revenge is the same. Like, you did something terrible. I already know that. Well, this is the terrible thing. Well, that hasn't changed any of the way that I was thinking. It wasn't shocking at all. It was like, okay, I assumed that they killed somebody in your family or something. That's exactly what they did. So don't think there was a big payoff there, for me at least. And then it's a matter of, okay, well, what's the end result going to be? And you're like, oh, well, maybe he's not that badass because he lost this fight, and then now he's being restored by the Hishai,
Hijira,
whatever, and now he's back, and now he's super strong, and I guess he's gonna win, and he kind of comes close, he gets beat up a lot, but then he wins at the end.
But then he also needs the help of the Hijira and the prostitute woman who he's been talking to the whole movie.
Yeah,
it's not him. He wouldn't have done it on his own.
Right. So. Just miles away from me. It's a miles away from what the John Wick story was.
I think it also just tries to like half-assed, like you said, John Wick knows what it is. It's so fun to watch. This dude is so badass. This one like tries to tackle like real stuff in like a half-assed way. It's like there's a vague oppressor. What does he do? I don't know. But it's trying to I don't know. I think it was just handled poorly.
It will and by the end of the movie, you were like, nothing is really paid off. Like you were wanting to kill those guys, you killed them. It wasn't entertaining or cool how you killed them, to be honest. I mean, it was a drag and it was a strain, and I would go as far as to say the action was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything wild.
It actually got nauseating towards the end.
Well,
I don't remember how much the camera was.
These are some of the problem. The shaky cam is borderline unwatchable. Like, I know for a fact my parents couldn't watch that movie.
No, they get like
they would. Yeah. It is horrendous. And I've heard even the people that have good takes on this movie, because I'm like, I need to hear what you guys are saying because I don't get it. I've watched some of the dumbest videos on YouTube trying to, and I'm like, what is this? Like, just it's way better than people understand, and then they won't say anything about the movie. They'll just keep saying that. Oh, and he again, shaky camera, but like, you know what? It worked for me. I'm like, well, that's great. I don't think it worked for most people. I think most people were, and there was just a lot of problems with this movie. The more I researched it, I find out that a lot of the there was a lot of shots done on iPhone, on GoPro.
Really?
They had they had budget cuts, so they lost their cameras.
Not great.
Dev Patel got injured several times, and then I'm like, oh, what are the big injuries he got? And it was like 2 broken toes, and it was like a torn shoulder. I'm like, a torn shoulder? So basically, he strained his shoulder. I mean, because a torn shoulder basically means you don't know what happened. Yeah, it was all. Sorry to say, Dev Patel. I know you could probably beat me up because you know Taekwondo, but a broken finger, 2 broken toes, and a torn shoulder, and then. Well, I think one of the things was nausea or something, and I was like, "You're gonna list that?" I'm
like, oh, you're just a human being who doesn't feel good.
I was like, "This is a horrible list." But anyways, so I don't know. I think it showed a little bit. I think a lot of the quality at times was just really poor.
Yeah.
They were just obnoxiously large amounts of shaky shots. Every fight scene was hard to view to where you're like, I don't know if the action was good. You were just shaking the camera around. And then all of a sudden the camera was done shaking and the fight was over. I know there wasn't any amazing action because I can't tell you anything about it. I can recite even the bad John Wick movies, some of the coolest scenes from it. So even its action, I would give a thumbs down.
I think I personally think the first wrestling scene in the ring was great.
Yeah,
it might be because I'm a big WWE fan. But
it was how do I say? the cinematography and the lighting, especially in those underground fight scenes, is very cool. Like, and that's what the trailer's full of. So you
Yeah.
watch those clips with him in a monkey mask fighting in these gritty underground boxing rings. All of that is shot actually really well. And when I say action, I don't mean those scenes. I mean like when he's actually going through the buildings trying to fight people. Those are horrible. Like I can't remember hardly anything from any of those fights.
Yeah.
It's so jumpy and all over the place, and which is a shame because you figure a guy that knows Taekwondo and who's as talented as Dev is, just being in the movie world, and I kind of assumed, I guess maybe I expected a little bit better, but anyways, overall thoughts. I didn't like the movie. I thought it was. Even if you take out all the really weird bizarreness that happens with the Hashi, whatever you want to call it. Hajira. Bad movie. Action's not great.
Yeah,
None of the characters were really developed.
no. Even if you literally took out the entire section of the Hijira, let's just say he like recouped in another way, it's still
Very
there's
forgettable
nothing.
movie.
Yeah,
it would just be virtually nothing. Like, really disappointing because I think we all had very low, like we had no idea what the movie was going to be like, and I think that kind of excited me. So maybe I did have high expectations. I don't know, but it was rough, man. The movie was bad.
You know what I'm going to take from that though?
What?
Not from that movie specifically, but like I've been trying to do this. Not watching trailers.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to
that's-
watch trailers ever again.
That was the thing I was going to get into before we got into the movies, and this is perfect because we're done with the first movie now. So, final thoughts on Monkey Man? Not great.
Never going to watch it again. Wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, thumbs down for me. And before we get into our next one, let's talk about trailers because that is something that. So this goes into like the marketing of a movie, right? And when I think of I have a weird, my brain just works weird. I have some of my favorite trailers of all time in my head of being like, oh, that movie had a great trailer, and I remember that. Like it means a lot to me because that's essentially like I work in video marketing, so that is the aspect of the movie that is actually closest to
That
what
makes
I
sense
think
that
of.
you would really.
Yeah. When I think of like, hey, how could I highlight this whole story in a quick little clip that would actually get people super excited, make it dramatic, make it really cool, make it intriguing? How would I do that? And I think that we are at like the lowest ever in marketing for movies, which is represented by trailers, because I think the production companies have everything has to go through the production company, right? Because you go, okay, hey, I want to make this movie. I really want to get it done. Let's go talk to whoever to get this movie done. So you talk to your production company. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll make your movie. And so great, awesome. And so when you're done making it or when you're starting to make it, whatever the case is, and you want to put out these trailers, you've got to talk to them and be like, okay, does this work, right? Because you're the one that's funding it, so you have to be. It's almost like it's the donors, right? You have to make them. You have to keep them happy.
Yep.
I think that they are. And they're doing this as movies too, that they're like, hey, it's got to be so safe. It's got to be all of these things that we know are proven because we're putting so much money into this. And so the trailers are all the same. They're all, let's just show you the entire movie.
I know, they're so bloated.
It's so rough. Like, it makes me mad almost. Like, I remember, the fourth movie that we were going to watch, it was called Last Night on Earth. It's an indie movie. It looked really intriguing. It looked interesting. I was kind of excited to see it, and it dropped out of theaters pretty much as soon as we were like, hey, that's going to be one of the ones we watch. It was like, hey, it's no longer in theaters. I didn't know much about this. Was kind of excited at just the idea. Found a trailer of it finally, because it's actually tough to even find a trailer. Found one, because my friend was talking about it. He actually found it. So we go to watch it. About a minute through, I'm like, I regret watching this now, because I'm like, hey, intriguing idea. And then it revealed in the trailer that, like, the main dude that was like, hey, you can come with me and my wife, and we're going to head out here. And they're like, okay, great. How long you been here? Blah, blah, blah. Cuts to a few more scenes. And all of a sudden, that guy pulls out a gun and starts shooting at him. And I'm like, wait, hold on a minute.
Gosh, it's so bad.
You
dude.
just ruined that.
Yeah.
Like, I would have entered that going, okay, well, this guy, is he got some suspicious about him? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm left to figure that out and left to experience how the story designed.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to go in there being like, I saw that guy shoot the main character in the trailer, so I wonder when the hell that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like,
It's interesting note to that is the Trap trailer, and I think this is different. But like the Trap trailer, for anybody who doesn't know, is M. Night's new movie, and it's about like a sting operation by the police, basically to trap this serial killer in this concert hall. And then in the trailer, you find out it's the dad that's like the main.
Right.
He's taking his daughter to this concert, and it's actually him. And he starts to realize that police are surrounding it, and is like, what is he going to do? I think that might be different because M. Night It's not going to be that straightforward.
Right.
I would assume.
Yeah, I'm assuming, and I'm also assuming that that's not going to be one of the main twists of the movie. Like,
Right.
again, it didn't seem like something that the trailer revealed, that it wasn't like you saw it in a piece of B-roll, like the dad all of a sudden shooting. So I don't know, but
Also, like, I don't know. I feel like it's a balance, because if that trailer didn't show anything relating to the dad potentially being the killer, I think it would be a boring trailer.
yeah,
So you have to give them something, but you don't want to give away the main twist, which just seems like a lot of these movies are doing.
Well, I'm in the crowd of, and I think most people would be. Again, this is my brain going, man, if I made trailers, all of my trailers would be extremely vague. Like, you'd be going,
That's what I would
the
love.
hell is this movie? Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think most people would. So I think about, you ever see the you ever watch Cloverfield, the
I
original
did.
Cloverfield?
I did.
Do you remember what the trailer was like?
No.
So the original trailer for Cloverfield.
I think I kind of do.
So the original trailer for Cloverfield, you know nothing about this, right? Like, so it's a hand footage in a party. It's that party scene at the beginning. So it's them in a party, and it's just a bunch of hand camera footage, and you're like, oh, this could be a comedy movie, this could be whatever. And all of a sudden, lights kind of flicker on and off. They're going, what the heck? And everybody from the party slowly kind of like makes their way upstairs. Now kind of laughing, like, oh man, what the heck is this going to be? And they get up to the roof, and they're still kind of all joking around. And in the background, with one of the guys turning to the camera and saying something, you see in the background, like, this is New York. There's a giant explosion, and these two buildings are like blowing up, and everybody on the roof is just struck. They're like, what? And like, they're slowly looking around and like, oh my gosh, is this? And all of a sudden you look in the sky, and there's debris from the explosion heading their way, and it starts breaking on the rooftops, and they're running back down into the building, and then it stops. That was all you got.
Great.
I'm like,
That's what people want.
I'm like,
unless
wait.
people are so dumb nowadays that they're like, well, I need more before I go spend my money on that.
and it was like, that's all it gave you, and then it was like Cloverfield, and then it cut back, and you were on the street, and then you see the Statue of Liberty head sliding towards you, and they're all screaming, and then it cuts out again. So
Yeah.
like that's the whole trailer. And that's all you got. And you're like, well, is this a terrorist attack? Is
Yeah.
this an alien? Like, well, I don't know, but it's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I went and saw it in theaters because of that. I'm like, if the marketing was done differently, I maybe never go and see that movie.
Yeah. I always try to like think about the why behind like media is so bloated. There's so many different ways to watch movies. You can never go to a movie theater ever and still watch a lot of the movies that come
Right.
out. How do trailers adapt to that? They seem to have adapted to become more bloated and tell more of the story. But wouldn't you think that it would be the opposite? It's like, you're competing against so much other media. Don't you want to be remembered? And like, the forgettable aspect of a trailer is when you're like, you feel like you've seen the whole thing. The trailers you remember are like Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Where it's like, dang, what? I need to watch this.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's gone the totally opposite direction.
And this is where, like, I can't tell you. I'm sure if I had some big production company CEO in front of me, he'd be like, no, that's what's working, Greg. Like, every time that we release this, if we have to release 5 different kinds of trailers, and once we do that, we actually get this much engagement. Once we get this much engagement, we can sell this many, spots to advertisers.
Yeah.
And once we sell that many spots to advertisers, we now paid for our marketing campaign. Once we pay for our marketing campaign, and so I'm sure they have this figured out. I'm not. I don't know. Like, there is part of me that thinks that maybe they're just so detached that they're like. So this happened with Morbius. I don't know if you heard about all this, but like, Morbius the movie.
I heard it was the worst movie ever.
Right. You never. I didn't watch it either. It got so much criticism online, and people just making fun of it and bashing it, and just like hilarious things. Like, one of my favorite tweets was just like, "Oh, I loved Morbius. My favorite part is when he said, 'This is Morbin time,' and then he morbed all over those guys." It just like has nothing to do with it. Like none of that's in the movie. And the production team was like, "Oh my gosh, it's getting so much engagement. We need to re-release this." They had no idea it was like negative engagement. They were just like, oh my gosh, look at all these people tweeting about Morbius. It's so popular. And they re-release it. Nobody watches it, obviously, because it's
No
terrible.
way.
Yeah.
That really happened?
They're so, they're completely detached from what's actually going on. And so, granted, could be an isolated situation. I would lean that way, even though like my feelings want it to just be that they're all dumb and that this is why they're making terrible trailers. But there's got to be part of me that thinks that this is a machine. It's working like a company should work. I'm sure they're making trailers that way for a reason. I'm sure it's because of money, and because of whatever. Because there's no hiding it. Like, every movie is like that. Again, even this tiny little indie movie. the trailer was like almost 3 minutes long, and I'm like, golly, you're going through the whole entire thing.
And it's obviously money driven.
Yeah,
At the expense of
They've gotta
like
be
intrigue.
somehow it's making money.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
At the expense of like enticing the viewer to know more.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. But all that to say, I'm not watching trailers anymore.
I think I'm with
really
you,
don't
man.
want to.
I think I'm with you. Well, the hard part for me is like there are some trailers I really love, and I'm like, man, I can't wait to see. I'm one of those guys that's weird, and like the trailer to Social Network, one of the best trailers in my opinion that's ever been made. It was so. I'll go back and watch that trailer sometimes just to watch it. It's a version of Creep by Radiohead done by an Irish choir, and it just starts off by flipping through like screenshots of Facebook things. And it just I can't tell you how when I first watched it, I was like, this just feels like me surfing on my Facebook. Like it's flipping through all these pictures and then you slowly start to hear some of the dialogue of the movie in the background while it's flipping through pictures, and it's doing nothing but like flipping through a bunch of B-roll of what's going on. And this is obviously it's very dialogue heavy. The whole movie is just dialogue, and it's just flipping through different quick scenes of what's happening in the movie. You can't tell what it means at all by what you're watching. It's a college party, and then it's a courtroom, and then it's two guys, and you're just slowly hearing the idea of the movie, which is that one guy's creating something, and it gets big, and then he starts losing friends because of it, and that's the end of the trailer. And then you get this through a few different sound bites. But it's so well done. Like it's just a great trailer. And so for me, yes, I'm like you in the sense that like I didn't watch any trailers to Infinity War. When that was coming out, the final movie was coming out, I was like, I'm not going to watch a single scrap of anything. And I never watched anything. And I thought that was great. The movie would have been great, either way, whatever. It was fun. It was the pinnacle of all Marvel movies. But it was hard for me because I kept thinking maybe I'm missing out on a trailer like that,
Yeah.
But
you're in a different position just because of like your work and the things you're truly passionate about. But
yeah,
I'm okay with never watching.
I might be on that.
Some of my
train
most pleasant surprises have been like movies that I'm like, you want to go to the movies tonight? Sure, let's see this. Don't know anything about it. Walk out of it. I remember, you ever seen the movie Barbarian? You wouldn't like it, I don't think.
Conan the Barbarian?
No, it's more up my alley. It's like a horror movie. But didn't know anything about it.
No.
Didn't know anything about it. Watched it. Was so shocked by like the content of it. And then was like, damn, man. Like, how did I not know about that? Like, feelings like that are what I chase.
All right. So, again, if you're watching online, you're wondering why I can't jump in chat because you haven't liked or subscribed. So take a second, like and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. All right. So getting into our next movie, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So this is a different movie. This is a blockbuster. Everybody knows, like, has seen a trailer or a poster or whatever. We say this and like, it's the next one and all these. Again, brief synopsis here, and then we'll get into Liam's thoughts. So this movie is not I guess it wouldn't be considered part of the Caesar saga of Planet of the Apes movies, which have been the last three.
Yeah.
This takes place, looked it up, 300 years. Supposed to be 300 years after.
Which we thought it was way less, right? We thought it was like maybe 50.
It should have been way less, considering a lot of things that we'll talk about. But 300 years after the last movie where Caesar dies, and you're just kind of opening your eyes to ape civilization. And their main character ape Noah and his friends is pretty cool. They're a part of this tribe that uses uses hawks or eagles to
Falcons.
Okay, I don't know, falcons, whatever.
Duh. For falcons, obviously.
So they use birds of undenounced origin to do some of their bidding, and then they get you get the idea that humans are just like this scary, like weird anomaly of a thing. Like, we don't see them around all that much. And they spot one. It's this big deal. They want to go hunt and find it. They end up getting like flattened by this other big ape tribe, taken to their kingdom, if you will.
They wipe out Noah's like entire
they flatten his whole entire town, and they take the ones that did survive to their tribe, where they are attempting to get the walls open of a giant military base. It's like right on the coast of California, and they've just been sitting there trying to blow it up for a very long time. and they've got this whole thing built by the water. There's this one human girl that they have been chasing. This is what led them to Noah's camp. They finally find her. They trap her and they get her to hang out there. The reason being is they want her, and there's one other human that's already there. They want them to read to them because the apes haven't learned how to read yet, despite it being 300 years. And I would say that speaking is a much harder thing to do than reading.
It's a slow advance.
Well, granted, being dyslexic, maybe speaking isn't harder than reading. However, if you was an ape, it would be a much more miraculous thing, in my opinion, to think that they could understand symbols and the meanings behind it, as opposed to learn how to talk. So, anyways, but none of them can read. So you've got, they bring them all there. The human girl has her own mission, which is disclosed later, that she needs to get something from the military base. And so she enlists the help of Noah and his friends. They kind of make this joint thing. Okay, we'll help you get in there, but you have to give me time to get my whole tribe out afterwards, or whatever the case is. Because the idea is that they're going to flood it. The girl doesn't want the apes to get all the knowledge of the people.
There's all like military technology too, like guns and
it's really advanced stuff. So she wants to keep that from them. So they get in there. She pulls off a hard drive from a computer in this gigantic building. So she finds it, having never been there, does the right whatever, gets the hard drive out, and then opens the doors, and they blow this wall that the apes have been building that holds the water back, and now the water is flooding into the base, and that's the idea, is to destroy it. Now, she did that before Noah could get his tribe out, and she said, well, we kind of gave him like a, hey, screw you, I was just using you. So you kind of think at the idea that she's not as great as you maybe once thought. She also killed the other guy because he was kind of like Team Apes.
Yeah, strangled
and
in like a brutal way.
Yeah, she chokeholds him. So you imagine that he's passed out from lack of blood loss, which is what happens when you get into a rear naked choke. Then she dumps him in the ocean, so now he's dead because he drowned. So
brutal. I remember looking at, or no, I didn't watch it with you guys. I was watching it with Christian, I think. I remember looking at him and being like, really intense.
He was like, hey, you guys shouldn't be out here trying to blow the wall up, which is like, they're bad.
Like, I'm gonna tell on you guys.
Yeah, for not being discreet. Like, you morons. Like, where is everybody? But he's like, yeah, like, this isn't cool. He's definitely gonna punish you. Yeah. And she's like, well, I'll kill him.
And you watch the life slowly drain from his eyes.
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm
a very
like,
intense
dang,
moment.
It's a family-friendly movie.
So, anyways, they blow the wall. So now Noah's tribe is now like all the other apes, and they're forced into the bunker. And by some miracle of science, the bunker is filling up higher than the ocean level. This doesn't make any sense at all. They had to climb. So the way they got in, right, because this door doesn't open, they've been trying to blow it open. They crawled around the outside up a giant cliff, very, very high. And then there was like a vent shaft thing that they kind of snuck through. Mm-hmm. Then when they go down to the bottom, they make their way inside the inside the shaft, and like kind of work their way to the door on the inside. Then they open it and they blow the wall down there, and the water kind of comes into the bunker. It fills up all the way to the top to where they climbed and the cliffs are next to the ocean. Like, you can see the ocean way down there, and I'm like, how is the science working here that the water that's going into the base of this thing is shooting out the top? So the visual that you get is all the apes running into the bunker and having to make their way up very quickly because the water level's rising. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how high is this water going to go?
We need science guy Nathaniel for some of this. It doesn't quite make sense to
You
us.
don't have to be a doctor to understand that was dumb. So they make it up to the top. Now you have this scene where, big bad guy who owns the kingdom ape is up there. Noah is up there. And what you think initially is about half of his people and half of Noah's people, because he's just beating the crap out of Noah, and all the other people are just watching. They're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh my gosh. These must be like either all of his people or like half and half. They are all Noah's people. This is all Noah's tribe, and they're just watching this dude destroy Noah, and they're like, oh my gosh, like this guy.
What are we going to do about that?
Yeah, what are we going to do? So then you think to yourself, well, maybe there's some ape dominance thing, and they're like, well, he's the strong one, so we can't do anything. He's fighting our strong guy. No, they were just waiting for birds. So then they got their birds to come. They start like calling the birds because they're the bird tribe of undisclosed origin. Falcon.
I looked it up.
It's Falcon.
Obviously. Anywho, Big old
Anyways,
big bad
these
Proximus
birds-
Caesar falls to the Falcons.
So then all of them start shooting their birds at him like a video game. And you're like, great. I'm really glad that you used the Falcon instead of a full-grown ape to go and beat that guy up. I think you guys are stronger than the Falcons.
Hundreds of full-grown apes.
Like
mind
yeah,
you.
they're all up there, and they're like, oh, we don't want to get close to him. So, anyways, they have the standoff. They use all the birds. They knock him off the edge. They win. They go back to their home, and then the human kind of comes back for no reason, really. She just comes back to be like, hey,
What's up?
hey, I flooded you guys and ran out of there, but it's for my own, just I had to do that thing, whatever. Anyways, she then the end of the movie, the I guess you would call it the big reveal, is that she finds her way back into. There's like this is
the worst.
This is really dumb. So she finds her way back to this satellite base. Let's assume it's a military base of some kind. And there's this bunker, a different bunker. This is more of like an observation type lab that happens to be like have an underground thing. And they're next to all these giant, big old dish satellites, huge, that are riddled, like they are destroyed, holes throughout all of them, panels hanging off. There's nothing holding these things up. And she runs, and inside is the most diverse group of human beings ever. I mean, the apocalypse was like, hey, we're going to one of you. And so all these, except for white dudes, clearly, but a bunch of diverse women, and one comes to the entrance and grabs the hard drive from main character girl, then plugs it in, and then you see all the giant satellites moving and directing themselves and pointing, and then they start picking up signals from other human beings, and you're like, whoa! It was really the direction that they were pointing, and not the fact that they're all destroyed.
Yeah.
Like that's not how make microwaves. That's not how radio waves work. Like they need to bounce off of those things. Those giant dishes aren't built like freaking Swiss cheese for a reason. So somehow that was the thing they needed. And then you hear signals from other human beings like, oh, wow, we thought we were the only ones out there. And then the movie ends.
Humans are back.
They're back.
They're back.
Which is dumb.
Yeah,
I'm
it is
sorry.
very dumb.
I guess now we can talk about the movie. So give me some of your thoughts.
I just think it was riddled with like plot holes or stuff that didn't make sense to me. The one being, the apes watching as their homeboy Noah is just getting beaten down when they're just strength in numbers. The other being the whole plan to flood the bunker made no sense to me. Like it was so confusing that like the girl all of a sudden was like, no, screw you guys, I'm out. And then the bunker flooded. And I was like, wouldn't that have happened if she didn't screw off?
Well,
Like,
I
what
think
was the plan there?
the idea
to get the tribe out.
was that she would get her thing on the inside.
Right.
They would open the door, and she would be like, I don't know, I guess they would hold it hostage, like, hey, don't do anything, we're going to blow this. And so he would get his tribe out of the way of danger, and then she could blow it. They say that specifically. He's like, my tribe goes free, and then you blow it.
Seems very dumb. Seems like that would not have gone how they intended it to go. Their whole tribe was enslaved. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Also, the humans were so dumb, both literally dumb, because they stumble on humans that are like cavemen, basically, and like forgot how to speak, and they're all mute, and like they're wearing like these like caveman-like dresses. So they're literally dumb. And also, actually, literally dumb by sending this 12-year-old girl on like what is probably the most important mission for humankind in a long time.
Yeah.
Just her, just a 12-year-old girl. There's no better clientele in the human race to send to this bunker to get this thing.
Well, I think the idea is that they sent a big group and that most of them were killed.
Was that the idea?
I think.
I didn't
from
get
what I
any,
remember-
I didn't get any sign of that.
From what I remember, she was with the group and they were all killed, and so she was the last one alive. But now I'm thinking about that, they didn't want to kill the ones that could talk, the smart ones. So maybe it was just her. I'm not sure, but either way, it like wasn't her plan to have to run from the apes and then make her way into the hands of Noah and the good apes.
Yeah,
it wasn't
but
part
she
of her
was
plan.
she was lame.
She was awful. She was an awful character.
She was an awful character. Lame. Like I couldn't tell whether we were supposed to be rooting for her. It seemed like we were not. It seems like they were like, even at the end, the humans are going to be the bad guys in this next installment of the Planet of the Apes movies.
the way she was introduced to is that she was one of the dumb humans. Like she couldn't speak or anything, and she's doing that at first on purpose, and then after a little while later, she kind of realizes that Noah and was it Rux or Rocco?
Yeah, Ruxa.
There's an orangutan, and he's fundamentally the best character in the movie. He's entertaining to be around. He is part of Caesar's tribe. So this is 300 years later, and he is one of the remnants of Caesar's tribe, and he kind of takes it as really important, all of the things that Caesar left behind.
He's carrying on Caesar's teachings in a genuine way, and the villain Proxima Caesar is taking it on in a very disingenuous way.
Right.
Like skewing what Caesar actually wanted
Exactly.
for his own power.
Right. And so the girl finally reveals that she can talk. Sorry, go ahead.
The other thing I was going to say is it was an absolute drag of a movie.
Yeah.
Like I would say 50% of it, if not more, was just the journey that they were on, which was not particularly interesting.
Well,
I was
and
not
they didn't hold
invested
much
in the
weight.
characters. Like
They took that whole journey,
Yeah.
and then they were just immediately captured.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess the journey was just to see what life looked like 300 years from now. But like, I don't care, and you
Yeah.
don't need to spend 45 minutes on it. And I was not invested in the characters enough to like care about the journey they were taking and the things they were learning along the way.
Yeah. Well, the biggest miss for me is that, well, oh gosh, there's a lot of misses in this movie. So let's start with the areas that I actually thought were watchable. It's very watchable in the sense that like the apes just look great. Like they look like they like all the Caesar movies. It's really fascinating just to look at them and the way they move and the way they talk.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fun.
It's also really wild, like when you learn the actors behind the apes.
Yeah.
And you can be like, I can actually weirdly see that actor
Yes.
in the ape.
Like the
I was
guy,
how does that work?
The guy who played the main baddie, he's been in quite a few things.
Yeah, we know who he is.
And yeah, that part it will never not be kind of
crazy.
intriguing just to hear them talking to each other and the way they look and the way they talk. Visually great, in my opinion. That's fine. That's pretty much all there was, though, because the biggest miss amongst a lot of misses for me was just the world building. So here you go. They don't say ever that it's 300 years later. It's an undisclosed amount of time later, and you're just left to kind of put the pieces together that this is very much past the other, which I don't mind at all. I actually don't. I think it's fine to say, hey, I don't want to make this be an immediate sequel to the last ones. Let's just end all those characters and create something more in the universe.
And that was actually, I read into it, the director wasn't going to accept it if it was just a direct sequel. He wanted like, once the idea of like, let's do it way in the future and just see how like Caesar's teachings have adapted since then. That's when the director was like, okay, I think we can do something.
Right. And the problem that creates is that now you have to be consistent with the idea of, okay, the first one takes place across what, 50 years? I don't know, how old is Caesar supposed to be by the end? I would imagine
By the end of the trilogy?
Yeah, like from movie one to so the outbreak happens, the end of movie one. How, time frame wise, where are we at the end of movie 3? I don't know. Let's just call it ballpark 50 years. I think it's probably shorter than that. It might be more like 40. So 40 or 50 years have passed. The apes have gone from normal ape that me and you know, to building a really advanced civilization in the trees. Most all of them speaking.
Yeah.
They don't all speak all. I think most of them prefer the sign language, but they have the ability to speak. Some speak more often than others, and are very smart. Like tactically, maybe even smarter than humans at this point. All right. Flash forward 300 years. They're in the same place.
Plateaued pretty hard.
A really hard plateau. They haven't learned how to read. From what you can see, the civilization looks the same. None of they just look like they have a bunch of tree houses.
Yeah.
If anything, it looks smaller and less intricate than the second movie, where you get the giant thing that Caesar has built, the home. It's less extravagant and exciting than that looking. It looks fairly the same. And you're like, 300 years later. Like when we see this in the original Planet of the Apes movies, they are just people. Like they're 100% human beings that are just apes.
And the intention was for this to be the middle ground between the trilogy and the original in 1968.
But here's the trilogy, the Caesar trilogy, didn't really all that middle ground between the end of that one and the starting of the original. only takes the development of the apes. That's the only transition, because you kind of get the idea that all humans are dead now. Like all of the you get the big battle that happens, and there's this giant avalanche, and it drowns. It kills what's presumed to be the last remnants of mankind. And then what you're left with is scattered man who is slowly losing the ability to talk and to think.
And enslaved, more or less.
Yeah, but they're all losing their ability to talk and to think. So now it explains why in the original movies human beings are like apes. They're walking around like they can't speak. They're stupid. And the apes are all like humans. They're just walking around going, "Hey, how's it going?" Like they talk like that. They don't talk like monkeys at all. They're not hooting or whatever. They're 100% human. So basically, all you're left with between the Caesar trilogy and the original movies is development. Development of the apes. How do the apes go from being really smart and human-like at the end of the Caesar trilogy, but not speaking super clearly? They're not upright and wearing clothes all the time. They haven't built like houses and like a civilization.
Yeah.
But everything else is in line. And this movie was like, great. We're gonna flash forward 300 years. And I'm like, in my mind, maybe that was past when the original one is.
The time frame doesn't make sense.
But you're like, okay, whatever. Let's see what's happening in 300 years. Nothing has changed. They're still the exact same way. Most all of them don't wear clothes. They're just apes. They're talking a little more clearly, and most all of them talk like none of them are using the sign language. But they're still talking like apes. Oh, why do you think we did that? And I'm like, okay, hold on. 300 years, and y'all are still like, can you read to me? Like what is going on?
No
here?
progress.
And they're just dumb. Like the girl is much smarter than all the apes. Even Noah, she's saying things, and he's like, "Oh wow, that's crazy." So, yeah, to me, the biggest swing and the miss was just the world building. Like you just built a world that is useless. I mean, it's utterly useless.
I'm wondering if the reason for this is, I don't know if you heard this. There's supposed to be like 7. Like an exorbitant amount of movies in this next installment of Planet of the Apes. Like we're talking like 5 to 6 movies
to be?
already planned. Already planned. Like already signed and everything.
Well, here's the other problem is that this one ended going in the opposite direction. So what I just explained to you at the end of the Caesar trilogy,
that's true.
they're like, hey, humans are in the prime position to start the original movie. They are, for the most part, wiped out completely. The ones that are there, we can presume, are all falling victim to the second part of the disease, which is where you lose your ability to speak and you start becoming more primitive. Okay, we're already set up. What the next movie is going to be everybody becoming that thing? No, the next movie is going to be man's making a comeback.
Yeah, that's so true.
And you're like, wait a minute, we're set up perfectly.
That'd be a direct contradiction if what I'm reading is true, which is like it is supposed to lead into the 1968 movie.
Well, this one already was.
I know.
It's just, it was even the land that Caesar picked, where he's like, this is the place that will do it. It's past like the desert or wherever. They find this place, and it looks like where it is, I should say, where the original movie started. It's got like the lake there next to whatever. And so I don't know. I really don't know what this movie was trying to do. When I found out they were making it, wasn't exactly upset because I'm like, well, those 3 Caesar trilogy is great,
phenomenal.
I mean, it's really good,
phenomenal. I think that's what makes this one particularly disappointing.
Well, and I would say the second biggest swing and the miss is characters. Like Caesar is such an intriguing character, and he has a relatable human counterpart in the first 2. The third one, it's more ape dominated. Yeah. The only human interaction is the conflict, which had to get that way, right? It couldn't always just be human and ape acting in unison. Whereas the first 2, there was always an advocate for the humans that was like, hey, no, I want to build these bridges. And Caesar's like, yeah, me too. Second one, I want to build these bridges. Yeah, me too. But there was always somebody else, throwing things into the mix. The first one, it was that humans weren't understanding of the situation. They were still treating apes like apes. And this was a problem because now apes are thinking like humans, and this is a big problem because now you're treating sentient people like animals. So that's not good. So this is the big. So now let's break away from humans. And the second one, it's, hey, I think we can build these bonds with humans. And then the apes are like, well, no, I've been oppressed too long. I need to fight. Like, there's only justice here if we actually just keep killing them. Sokoba leads that whole thing, and it's my favorite one of the 3. And the third one is just like, hey, let's wrap this up. Let's get this close to the original. And I'm like, well, I did a good job. It was probably the least interesting of the 3, but it was still had a lot going for it. It's a great movie. But Caesar throughout it and his relationships with other apes and the people is really well done.
Totally.
And he's phenomenal. Granted, Andy Serkis is a gem. Like, you can't really replace him.
Yeah.
So now you get, I don't know, literally none of them. Ruxin, or whatever his name was, the orangutan, was the only one that I was like, I like seeing him on screen, but I have no emotional attachment to him. He dies in the middle of the movie, and you're like, I don't necessarily feel for that. I actually thought that he was going to survive. He got swept away into a river. I'm like, oh, he's for sure going to come back. Didn't. He's dead.
There goes the best character.
Yeah. So none of them have any emotional pull at all. So,
And I was trying to. I don't know if we ever confirmed this. I know we talked about it, but the movie opens up with an ape being burned, or like a funeral.
oh, so it's a funeral for Caesar.
It is for Caesar.
It's essentially the extra scene from the third Caesar trilogy, the last movie
Right.
that was made, that you didn't see, where you see
what I
Caesar
thought.
lean over and die, and it's basically what happened right after that, which is they all pick him up. Maybe this is the next day. I don't know. They put him on a mountain of sticks, and they light the sticks on fire. And he's burning, and then they all hold up the kind of Caesar symbol of like apes together strong.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to whatever 300 years later.
Cuts to crap.
Yeah. So, all in all, it's not like painful to watch. Like, if you were to go see it in theaters,
It kind of is because it's long.
oh, that's true. Going back to the length thing, yeah, it's not going to give you much of a payoff. You're going to see a lot of the apes running around and talking to each other in the way that'll look. If you're just really interested in that, great. If you really liked the Caesar trilogy, it has nothing to do with that. And if anything, it doesn't make sense in its universe. If you want to turn your brain off to the fact that it's breaking all the rules of the universe, that's fine. But it'll still be lackluster in characters that you'll care for. I mean, there's
zero.
virtually has nothing. So
Yeah.
so
I mean, it was very disappointing because I thought that trilogy was like underrated, one of the best series going.
oh yeah, maybe the best. Like,
Yeah.
maybe the best series currently going. Where I was like, the movies are all excellent.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they really are all good. So coming on the heels of that, very disappointing. And not as bad as Monkey Man in my opinion by a long shot, but I would put this in the category of very, very mediocre to below par. Like I would put it at like a 4 or something.
I would argue that
4.5, and
as a
Monkey Man being more like a 2.5.
I would argue as a whole, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is better. I would say the highs of Monkey Man surpassed any highs I experienced at Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was so just like meh and just a drag the whole time. Like, man, as soon as it started, I was pretty much like, dang, I kind of want this to end. Unfortunately.
So let's get into our last movie here. So the last movie that we watch, it's the most recent one that came out, is called The Watchers. Now, this is a movie made by
Ishalana
Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
It sounds like we're lying, but that's the real name.
You confirm that.
So this is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. This is her first movie.
Ishana. Ishana.
Ashana.
That was very close.
Yeah.
Ishana. I said Ishalana. I added a couple more vowels.
Just
there.
throwing in the L there.
Fine.
A little more ethnic.
Fine.
That's okay. We like that. Okay, so the movie. So Dakota Fanning. So if you're like, hey, I remember that name, it's because she was a great child actress. And
Bridge to Terabithia?
hasn't really done much since then. Bridge to Terabithia is what you think of when you think Dakota Fanning. You don't think like
Me,
all the
Myself,
amazing-
and Dixie. What was the other? What was the Dixie movie with the dog?
Oh my gosh!
Because
no.
of Winn Dixie.
No, dude, you think of Man on Fire is probably where your head should go, or I Am Sam is another good one.
The one with Sean Penn.
Yeah,
I've never seen it. I've heard so many things about it.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But she's great in that. She's a great War of the Worlds. She's phenomenal child actress. Hasn't really done much since she's gotten older. So she plays an artist who's working at like a pet shop. There's a lot of themes of mimicking. She's given a parrot who mimics a few things. This is important because mimicking is the theme. Other than that, it's not important. We also find out that she pretends like she goes out at nights wearing different wigs and pretending she's different things. She's like, oh, hey, I'm an actress, and
Yeah.
blah, blah, or I'm a ballerina, and blah, blah. Meeting guys, I guess, hooking up with them. I don't really know. They don't really touch on that. Just talking
Unclear.
to them at bars, pretending she's other people. So you're getting this idea of like, oh, the theme in the movie is mimicking because the parrot's mimicking her. She's mimicking things she hears on the radio for no reason, just like a tick. She's pretending to be other people. And then she has to now take this parrot to a location of some kind.
A zoo in Belfast.
A zoo in Belfast. She's in Ireland. I should have mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's driving through the forest, which I guess that's where Belfast is. She gets very lost, and she ends up in this area of the forest that's mysterious. There's all these signs that are like, "This is the point of no return." Really creepy. And then she ends up getting picked up by these creepy people, and they take her to this,
The Coop.
the coop. It's just like a building
Mm-hmm.
with a big glass wall, and there are 3 people that are there that are just kind of being like very vague, and they're like, "Oh, they're gonna come watch us now." And she's like, "Wait, what does that mean?" She's like, just "Don't worry about it. Just stay still."
They always come.
They always come. So you slowly start to realize that they're in this coop, and there are all these creatures outside in the forest that are bad. Like they'll kill you if you're out there. But as long as you stay inside, they just want to observe you.
They have rules.
Yeah, they have rules. They want to observe you. But if you don't, if you don't do certain things, they get really mad. There's just one out of the 3 people that are left, which is a young boy, 18.
Young boy.
What was he? 18, 19? You think?
Yeah.
A girl who's a bit older than that. She's probably 30, Dakota Fanning's age. And then there's like an old wily lady that seems to know like all the things. She's the one that's like, there are the rules here. This is what we do. Anyways, so you slowly start to realize that these things outside are shapeshifters. That they're taking the shape. This is all revealed by the old woman who just tells them all randomly. She's like, "By the way, I want to tell you guys something. They're all shapeshifters." And they're like, "Oh, seems important to know." So Dakota Fanning's like, "I'm not going to stay here. This is wild." But then slowly starts to realize that this lady's telling the truth. These things are scary and evil, but also like, what is going on? And you're asking this as a viewer too. So the intrigue builds. You find out that there's like this bunker. They go down into the bunker, and you realize there's a professor down there. And the professor is the one who designed everything, and he's doing this to observe. Like, came out here to observe these creatures, and so he built the coop. Like he went up, from his little establishment and built the coop so that he could see out, and see these creatures. But he got so twisted by them shape-shifting into him so many times that he made it reflective to where you can't see out, but they can see in. That's the idea. So that when they're in the coop, you can't see out of it. So this is like you're introduced to it in that fashion, that you can't see out of this thing. So you're understanding why now he's building all this stuff. So he's giving you kind of the detailed history, and you kind of find out by all of his videos that he has of him talking, documenting, that he actually captures one of them. And then he's like, "Okay, I'm losing my mind. I'm going to go kill this one and then also kill myself." So he goes off screen, and you hear bang, bang. So kills the one, kills himself. That's what you think. So eventually he's like, "Oh, by the way, if you go over here to this area, you'll be able to make it to this ferry and get out." They're like, "Okay, well, this is the thing. We can go." So like, all right, sounds good. So they go run to the ferry. They get there. The boy at that point is like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go die now," and he turns around and
What an absolute
it's such a dumb
moron
moment because
he is.
because you're sitting there like, okay, these are shapeshifters. They want to kill you, and then he gets to the edge of the water, and then he sees one of their other members that had just died before Dakota Fanning got there, and he's like, "Oh, Dave, we can save him. Let's go back and get." Whoa,
It's like, buddy, we've already established it's not Dave.
Yeah, like it's just so dumb, and it's like, well, yeah, his mind was twisted. The forest will make you want to. Anyways, so very dumb thing. They were just like, "Hey, you're expendable. We want you to die." No emotional connection to any of these characters, by the way. So they get free. So we're all good. Their plan is to go and destroy all the stuff at the professor's room, his room at the university, his office. They want to go and destroy all of his stuff, so that nobody also would get tricked into going to this place. So she goes there and she realizes that the professor had a wife, and the wife is the old lady. And so she goes and tells the younger girl that was her age, the other 30-year-old. She's like, "Hey, we need to come, and like I need to come talk to you about something." So she comes over, opens the door, she gets in there. She's like, "Hey, by the way, I saw this picture, and I think that means that Sheila, or whoever the old lady is, Madeline is." She's one of the changelings. Like, it's crazy. She's like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "Wait, I think somebody's here." So I guess the idea is that she called them both. Like, "Hey, let's all go meet here and
That's
talk."
what I was confused about too. Where was this house?
Yeah. So the house is, what's the other 30-year-old
Whose
girl's
house
name?
was it?
It's not Madeline, which is the old lady. And
Clara.
Clara. So it's Clara's house. And so she gets there, and I guess the idea is that she called Madeline and said, hey, let's both meet at Clara's house to talk about this. And they were going to confront Madeline about being a changeling.
Yeah, right.
Which is like, just to give you an idea, these things are like giant, creepy, like they look like the Slender Man. Like they're all just tall, gangly things that crawl super fast and just eat people. Like they're horrifying. They're really, really creepy looking things. So I'm like, okay, she's going to change into that. And then what, you're going to be like, hey, you shouldn't do this or something like.
Yeah, what's the end goal?
Yeah, so they call Madeline. So then she gets there, Clara's there. And she's like, yeah, I think she's probably here. And she looks outside, and it's actually Clara walking to the door. And the reveal to that is so dumb. It doesn't give you any time to like. Actually, sorry, you don't even see that it's Clara. You hear the car door, and she kind of looks outside, and then she looks down at like a picture or something. There's some kind of reveal. As she turns around, and she goes, "You're not Clara, are you?" And she's like, "No, I'm not." And I'm like, "Wait a minute! Like that was a perfect opportunity for a great reveal where somebody knocks at the door." And it was funny. I was telling it this way because this is how I told Nathaniel. This is how it should happen. So I was just regurgitating that. It's not how it happened. They just heard that somebody got there and like, "Oh, that must be Madeline," which is the old lady that they think is a changeling, and it's actually the real Clara. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, "Oh, the door's gonna open. It's gonna be Clara," and she's gonna go, "Wait, if you're." And then she's going to turn around, and Clara's going to already have been turned into the whatever. That's not how it happened. She turns around, she goes, "You're not Clara." She's like, "No, I'm not." And then she like punches her or something.
Yeah.
And then the real Clara walks in, and then so now you're realizing that Madeline had changed into Clara. Anyways, so
it's so dumb though, because like it's a glass house, so like you see the real Clara getting out of the car in like anti-dramatic fashion.
Yes.
When it's like it could have just been like door open Clara.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
And it's almost like you see her before the characters do. So the characters aren't reacting like, oh my god.
Exactly.
So everything about that reveal was terrible. Because I thought, oh man, the reveal is going to be that this old lady is the one, but then they're going to have a second kind of twist as being like, oh no, she actually got there early and now she's Clara. But they botched that. This weird fight ensues where nobody's really threatened. She just kind of like hits one into the wall. And you're like, okay, you guys have been like ragdolling people and presumably like eating them and like they ripped the little kids like what, heart out or something. Then they like slice his throat, stab their giant claw fingers into him. And then so this girl just is kind of like pushing them. She's like shoving them to the ground.
Maybe she's sweet.
The idea is that this one's a changeling, which means a halfling, which means that she is the result of the professor and one of them having a kid.
Well, I don't think it was
or
the
maybe
professor.
Not the professor, but a human being and one of these fairies having a kid. And this is like one that can become closer to human because they all kind of struggled to be perfectly shape-shifting.
Yeah, there's things that are off.
There's always things that are off, and so this one is a little more perfect. Like she held her shape as the old lady Madeline for the whole movie. So, so she shoves Clara to the ground, she shoves Dakota Fanning to the ground, knocks Clara out, and she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna kill you now." She explained, "I'm gonna kill you now, and I'm gonna become you now because people don't accept me as this fairy thing. They're scared of it." And Dakota Fanning's thing is, you don't have to do that. You don't have to hide who you are. I wanted to hide who I am for a long time. And this is the backstory with Dakota Fanning, which they try to like play up at being super dramatic. So as a little kid, she was roughhousing in the back of a car seat, and her mom got distracted and turned around and crashed and died. And she just hasn't been able to let that go. It's my fault that I killed her. You were a little kid, and little kids do that all the time. Your dumb mom shouldn't have turned around while driving the car. And her twin sister, who she's been ignoring the whole movie, has been trying to get in contact with her. She like doesn't want to see. And this kind of explains as to why she wants to be different all the time. She doesn't want to be herself. But the actual bad thing is stupid. It's so not bad. You're a little kid. She was like putting the windows up and down, and it distracted her mom enough to where her mom crashed. She's like, "Oh, it's my fault." Anyways, so she's like, "Hey, I know what it's like to not like yourself too. You just like me.
We're like the same. We're the same.
We're the same.
Me and you.
You're a giant fairy creature that eats people and that wants to kill me and become me. And I'm sad that as a little kid I distracted my mom and she crashed. So we're like the same." And so the fairy thing's like, "Okay," and just flies away. And that's that.
It was like, there's more of you out there. You should go find them. More halflings.
Yeah, like the idea is that there are more people that are probably halflings. Like, there are more people that are just shape-shifting. So she's like, you
And
can
we
never
wouldn't
find them.
know. We'd never know.
So that's the end of the movie. Well, it ends with her reconnecting with her twin sister. And she's like, hey, how's it going? And she just tells her the whole story. She's like, yeah, and then they captured us and put us in a little thing, and then the other one flew away, and I was like, hey, we're the same person, me and you.
And she's like, I'm so sorry you went through
And
that.
she's like, wow, I mean, that's such a deep
And then the
pain."
big twist when the little ginger girl is following her or is like
not even-
tracking
that's
her.
not a twist.
It's really Madeline, the halfling. Dun dun dun. She's still out there.
It's a very obvious. She's like, yeah, she's still following me, and she still has some work to do as far as
She
copying
just
people.
likes observing.
But she likes observing, and it shows this girl who's like all of a sudden terrible at shape-shifting, and she's like her face is
Yeah,
dented
yeah.
in, and I'm like, all right, all of a sudden she became incompetent at shape-shifting.
Yeah, what's the camera got on her?
Anyway, so that's the end of the movie. Messaging is very clearly, it's very clearly what, be yourself. Don't be ashamed of who you are.
Is it?
I don't know. It was
I was viewing it at face value as just a horror film.
the problem.
I wasn't trying to dig any deeper.
The problem with the movie is that it builds some solid intrigue throughout. You're like, okay, I'm genuinely interested to see what's going on here,
Yeah.
what these things are. But then everything happens so slow. Like, it's just like, and they're shapeshifters, and you're like, oh, okay. You just had a disposition scene where you explained to me what they were. All right, well, you'll have a purpose for that. Oh, we found out the professor captured one of them and that he killed them both. All right, maybe you believe that, and then maybe that you were like me and you were like, oh, the old lady is the shapeshifter. Me and Nathaniel were both like that she's the shapeshifter.
I didn't get there.
Oh yeah, I thought the only other possibility was that the last scene after, or where he goes up and he shoots the 2 times, that was actually the shape-shifting thing being him, and in reality the message he was giving was to just lead them directly into the heart of all the fairies, and they would just kill themselves. I thought that was going to be it. Like, it was the shapeshifter coming to the screen and going, hey, if you ever want to get out of here, go to the ferry at this location. I thought that was going to be a trap.
That actually would have been better.
Right. I thought it would have been. I was like, oh man, imagine ending that way, that they're going, wait, why would he lead us here? And then you see one of the fairies come out as him.
I would have rather it end in just a horrid way like that.
Well, so the book, this is based off a book.
Yeah.
The book ends with, I believe, from what I understand, that I'm unsure if the fairy kills Dakota Fanning or not in the book, but she goes away on not good terms, pretty much saying, I could be anyone kind of thing.
I'm gonna kill you at some point.
It's
bro.
revealed, and it's kind of a quick reveal at the end that, oh, by the way, Madeline was a changeling, and then she like knocks out the girl, and I think proceeds on as her, and like that. It's a super unsettling end,
Yeah.
from what I understood.
Right.
Could be wrong on that. You guys can fact check me. Chat, you can go fact check me. If and the book is called The Witcher, I believe, and they couldn't use the name because of the popular TV series The Witcher. So
Is that right?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So go look up that book, chat, and fact check me if that's the way that it ends. I believe it ends like that. Where's this one? Sorry.
Why did they have to do that?
Well, sorry, I'm wrong. It doesn't end with her dying, because I know the very end of the book is her calling her sister, but you don't hear any of the conversations. It's just like finally she's called her sister.
Yeah.
The movie just explains too much and hits everything way too on the head, where it's like, just let us observe and kind of gather
Right.
that she has this pain from her past, and that's what she's using to connect to these things. You don't have to have a scene where she's like, hey, I have pain from my past, and that's why I can connect with you. And I'm like, we're not morons.
That's so
I don't
corny,
need you
yeah.
to like sit there and explain that.
She doesn't have her father's talent. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, disappointing. Some intrigue there, but the payoff was just garbage.
Yeah.
Really rough. Very easy to see. No big twists. The twist that the lady was a changeling was revealed slowly, and so there wasn't any big payoff. Even the cool part where Madeline ended up being Clara, nothing interesting, because that was a slow reveal too. So any chance they had, they really blew. And yeah, honestly disappointed, just a little bummed out, because I got a little intrigue. So for the intrigue alone in the middle, for the watchability on your first time through, if you like things that are a little creepy, yeah, maybe it's probably worth watching better than the other two.
I was just gonna say that my hot take was I liked this one more.
Yeah, I don't
Of
know
all
if that's
the
a
three.
hot take. because I can't even hit that Liam's hot take button.
Is it? It's not even that. It's a lukewarm take.
It's just a solid. I think it's just. I think it's not even like a take.
Crazy,
it's just
man.
like a fact.
I mean, if you compared the budget, it would be a hot take.
oh, because of Planet of the Apes is like
Goodness
$1
gracious.
billion.
Yeah, like $1 billion. Monkey Man's probably a decent amount too. This one's probably like 10 million.
Monkey Man just ran out of funding because it was that weird of a movie.
But no, I think like a lot of really good suspense or horror movies, my favorite parts were before you actually see the changelings, like the intrigue as to like what could they possibly look like. Like I think Cloverfield did a good job of that too. It's like the unseen is the scariest part,
the mysterious part.
Yeah,
and they did a decent job at the slow reveal of what they looked like.
I think they did.
This one scene where, like, again, they kind of are just a little off on all their shape shifting. So one of the scenes is one of them is okay. So it's something we didn't mention. They can't enter the light. And so they're kind of all contained into this one forest area. Mm-hmm. The lore is explained as to what these things are, like I'm about to explain it to you. In the movie, they're just like, oh, here's this book that explains everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, these were fairies. They came down to Earth. They used to bond with humans. But then humans one day were like, hey, screw you, because they were like the gods. Screw you, we're going to lock you away in this chamber. Doesn't explain how they could all do that as inferior beings, but they locked them all away in this. And so somebody came along and opened this chamber in the forest. So now they've all been released into the forest, but they can't leave the forest for unclear reasons, and they can't enter the sunlight for unclear reasons. So now they're like these ghouls that hang out just in this one forest. They can't leave the forest, and they're all sad about that. They're all trying to become more like humans to hopefully leave, but none of them get there. So there's this one scene where one's in the shadows in front of the girl. You can't enter into the sun, and so the hand reaches out of the shadows, and it's got like 8 fingers, and it reaches forward, and then it pulls its hand back, and you're like, ooh, that was a little creepy.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of cool. And then there's a couple other scenes where one of the time they get stuck outside, they don't get back into the coop before it gets dark. So they're like, oh, let's just try to hide here.
Yeah, that was a
nobody will
good
see
one.
us. And then you kind of see through the cracks of their shelter this really creepy, like a bunch of creepy ones. They all stand up, and they're these tall, lanky things. At this point, you hadn't seen any of them. So you're like, oh, this is a little creepy. But then it just kind of reveals them as these tall people that shapeshift, and once the intrigue is gone,
that's when the
movie's lost.
I'm a sucker for like the hand cam kind of footage. Like Paranormal Activity was very cool when that came out. Just the uniqueness of that. So like there was one scene where to try to see what they look like, they put a hand cam outside the door.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those scenes were very cool.
Yeah.
And I don't even think anything happened.
It yielded no results.
You didn't see, but like still, it's like
it resulted in one of them coming to the door as one of their members that had just been lost. And at this point, you don't know that they're shapeshifters. So he just comes to the door and he's like, "Hey, can you let me back in? I got lost." And then it's one of the girl's husbands. It's Clara's husband. So she's like, "Yes, open the door." And then the old lady, who knows what's going on and doesn't reveal. Again, she reveals later that they're shapeshifters. Or does she reveal right there that they're shapeshifters? Or I think it's later.
I think it's later.
But she's just like, "Oh, they have very many tactics. Believe me, that's not your husband. Like, they're just trying to trick you." Anyway, so that's what the hand camera reveals.
How did nobody figure out that under the rug was a hidden door?
So I thought the same thing at the beginning. When I
Obviously
first,
Madeline
when I
knew it was
first saw it, I was like, "This is dumb that none of them have ever looked under the rug." But Madeline knew it was there, obviously, because she was strapped down there.
Right.
So my thinking is that the other two that came in there, which again they'd only been there for a few months,
8
I think.
months at most.
Yeah.
Was the one kid maybe.
I think Madeline probably just steered them clear of it. It's like, oh, there's nothing else in here. Like don't bother looking for it. She probably even said, "Oh, I've looked at," or she must have not said that, because when it was revealed, she goes, "Oh man, I never looked under there. They were just, like I never thought to." So she must have not said something like, "Oh, hey, I've looked everywhere. Don't bother." But
I'm sure she steered them.
It does seem like you would have scoured every.
But you also
inch of
have
that
free
room.
will to just be like,
Yeah, yeah. So just a little like again some solid intrigue, but no payoff at all. The movie ends very flat.
How about that one guy actor, man? He was really hamming it up. He was the overacting award of the year.
Which kid?
The kid in the coop.
Oh, dude.
Goodness gracious. He was like, you know who Barry Cogan is? He's like the it actor nowadays.
Yeah.
He was like trying to put Barry Cogan on as a mask.
I thought they were
times 100.
All pretty bad. I thought even Dakota Fanning was flat. And I don't know if I want to blame the writing or not, but yeah, none of them had any kind of charisma.
Dakota Fanning seems like she didn't even want to be in the
Yeah,
movie at all.
it was pretty miserable. Like none of the actors seemed like they were really enjoying it. And they had nothing to act as. Like again, the writing was just really plain. So yeah, really disappointing movie. I would probably give it, I don't know. So I gave Apes a 4.5. Maybe we'll give Apes a 4 and this one a 4.5. And then I'll give Monkey Man like a 2.5.
I'll go 5 for Watchers, 4 for Apes, 3.5 for Monkey Man.
Okay, so
Pretty
just
bad,
just,
man.
Yeah, just a
as
little
someone who likes to love things,
Yeah.
and exaggerate things.
bit. Yeah.
If I'm given 3 movies and Civil War,
Oh yeah.
5.5 probably. Just lame, dude. Just a lot of lame stuff out there.
So where does this leave you as far as like movies currently? Let's just talk about like we'll just use 2024 because obviously I think you can use the broader spectrum of like movies. Like we kind of gave the broad strokes of movies were good, and then superhero movies happened, and then now movies are bad. So like what would you tell people? Movies right now, what is there to expect? I mean, what did you get from this experience?
Just bloatedness, just cash grabs,
Yeah.
IPs that are just beaten to death. The most interest movie wise, that's why I was kind of disappointed in Civil War too. Is I think A24 does a great job.
Yeah.
A lot of times they've struggled a little bit recently. I think
they produce a ton of movies,
Yeah.
and so it's like they have a lot of bad ones too.
They
It's
do,
like-
and
they made some really good
increasingly
movies.
so as they're becoming more and more
Yeah.
mainstream. But I think A24 is one to look at. If they're involved in a movie, I think that would probably move to the top of the pile. But just IPs, man, it's really infuriating at this point.
Yeah, I think that two of the bigger struggles that when I'm thinking about a movie that I face is one is like just the exhausted, nauseating amount of wokeness that's shoved into
course.
every movie.
course.
And when you get away from that, which I think in at least for The Watcher, I didn't feel a nauseating amount of any of that. It was very they leaned into a little bit to this theme, which I don't like, of being like, hey, your pain is your power. Like her, the fact that she has this, we'll call it a tragic backstory. She was a kid and her mom was stupid and turned around, but she blamed herself. Oh, it's tragic. It's destroyed my life. That became her power. That this is how she overcame the bad guy. Oh, let me just touch on my pain and that'll. I just think that that's a silly theme, and that's in a lot now where you just see like, oh, your pain or your disadvantage is actually your advantage. Like that's the way we'll spin it. And I just find that to be silly. But the nauseating wokeness, I think, takes me away from a lot of movies, but also movies that don't have any kind of creativity, where it's like you've seen this, it's either a remake, a sequel, something done in the same universe, right? Like Planet of the Apes, nothing original there. All stuff you've already seen, but worse. And I would say, Monkey Man, no, it's same thing. It was just all stuff that you've seen before. Very and nothing unique in that movie, in my opinion, unless the whole second act is really something you were aching to see. I don't know if I've ever seen that
different.
in a movie.
Yeah, it's
definitely
certainly
different.
But it was like John Wick, but worse. It's like movies that inspire it, but worse.
Yeah, and I would say The Watchers is at the very least unique. There's a completely unique idea. Haven't seen anything like that. Not great, but it's at least unique. So
But
for
in
me,
this chunk,
yes.
it'll
So
separate itself.
my takeaway is that still might even be a movie worth watching, just because right now it's very hard to find those two things: movies that aren't nauseatingly woke and movies that aren't just something you've already seen before.
Yep,
And in my opinion,
100%.
The Watchers isn't either of those things. I don't think there's
No,
wokeness
I
shoved
would
down your
agree.
throat, and I don't think that it's just stuff that you've seen before. So if you can check those two boxes, I will be interested in seeing a movie, and then I can gauge from that point if it's just a great movie or not a great movie.
Did I remember? So I watched The Watchers Sunday, and the 4 movies out in theaters right now are hilariously bad. The Watchers included in that, not hilariously bad. The other 3 movies are Inside Out 2,
Woof.
Bad Boys Ride or Die, because
Woof.
everyone was just pining for another Bad Boys 20 years later when Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are 30 years older, and the Garfield movie.
Oh, dude.
That's it. Those are the movies out in theaters. That's so bad. This is July.
Yeah, I know. And I
Isn't
mean,
that absurd? That's what we're talking about.
well, this is my whole. This is why seconds ago I literally just said The Watchers is worth watching in
Yeah,
theaters,
totally.
and I gave it a 4.5. It's because movies are that bad. Like you're gonna get sequels, remakes, movies you've seen like that are just generic carbon copies of something you've already seen. And most of the time it's gonna be just woke garbage shoved down your throat the whole time. If it's not one of those first ones, it's still going to be woke garbage, a new idea that's just full of wokeness. So if you can avoid those two things, it'll be worth watching, and you can make your opinion at that point whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
I will say, this is just timing-wise, happened to be this way. So Nathaniel and I watched through tons of series. We occasionally bring you along a ride for them. But we've gotten as far as doing Bad Boys, and so...
Oh, really?
Yes, this is just like literally just watched the third one 2 days ago.
There's 4 of them.
This is the fourth one that just came out.
I haven't seen
So
any of them.
the very first one, borderline unwatchable. Like I watched it and
The
I was like,
first
the very
one?
first one, I was like, this is really bad. Like, I mean, me and Nathaniel were like, the humor wasn't there, the characters weren't there. It was awful. I do
Typically, to
not-
warrant 4,
Yes.
you'd think it'd start off hot.
So then we watched the second one and we're like, boring, infinitely better than the first because it was like there was actually something to watch there, but not great. So we were like, we took a big break. We were like, I don't even think we're not even going to
tough
finish
to
it.
go back.
Finally, we went and watched the third one like 2 days ago. The third one's actually good. Dude,
When did the third one come out?
2022 or 2020?
Oh, really? The third one was recent.
So the first one, 1992. Somebody fact check me on that. Can you pull that up real quick?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so 2020 is the third.
I didn't realize they
Oh,
made
we
one
got
so
Nathaniel here. Nathaniel, when was the first one? When did the first one? 1995.
1995. 2003, Bad Boys 2.
So it was 1995, 2003, and then 2020. So the first one, 1995, horrible. 2003 one was watchable, but not a great movie. Nothing I'd want to rewatch, but it was noticeably better than the first. And then this last one in 2020, wholeheartedly a good movie. Yeah, I know. It was like shockingly, I was like, oh, wait a minute, you guys are taking this seriously now. Like the first ones were such jokes that I was like, and none of the humor really hit for me. So I was like, this is just so bad. Whereas the third one was like, hey, we're going to touch on some serious topics. It's going to be okay because actually Will Smith's a good actor. Like they didn't realize,
Yeah,
like,
totally,
you
right.
don't have bad actors here. Like Will Smith's great.
And Martin Lawrence is a good comedic
Yeah.
actor when you use him well.
Right. And so all of a sudden it was a really good movie. And we were both like, that was good. Like
Wow.
I was engaged the whole time. The ending was a little shocking. It was great. Like
So you guys got to be racing to the
so
theaters.
we were literally
for,
sitting there going, if it's just constantly progressing, then this fourth one might actually be
Are
excellent.
you going to try to see it in
And
theaters?
then then one of my favorite reviewers, I don't know if you watch Drinker online.
No, but you talk
So I haven't watched it because when he has these videos, he spoils it. But the title was praising Bad Boys 4. So I don't know if you just want to watch Bad Boys 3 in your own time sometime. Might be worth it. I don't think that you'll be disappointed. It's at the very least a solid movie within itself. There's some callback to certain
That's what I
humors
was going to ask. Do I need to watch the first?
No. Like you can watch it and you'll be fine. Like none of the main things are. There'll be some comedic like, hey, you remember that time I got shot in the ass? And
Right.
you're like, okay, well, whatever. But the actual movie itself is watchable. It's cool and intriguing. The idea, I think it works because the first one is that they're bad boys and it's just whatever. Now they're like, no, everything works by like really structured ways. Now this is not how the police work. We're by computers, and they're kind of like the old heads. But they need a little bit of that at this point in the mission. They're like, no, we need some of this. Like like these young kids aren't really getting it,
Right.
And so it works. You're like, oh, this is kind of cool. It's in line with them to act as wild. And again, there's the extravagant sliding in on a thing with wheels on it and shooting people and dodging bullets. But it's not like, I don't know. I feel like it's in theme with what's going on.
Interesting. I was not expecting that.
So I know, believe me, after watching the first one, I was like, dude, I don't want to watch the rest of the series. And we watched the second one just because it was like, I have nothing to do and I just want to burn through this. And after the second one, again, wasn't good enough to merit wanting to watch the third. But it was, we both said, we're like, well, it was twice as good as the first one, but still not a great movie. The third one was just legit good.
Wow.
And so and the critics that I trust are like, Bad Boys 4 is what we needed right now. It was great. I'm like, wow. So
There hasn't been a great like blockbuster comedy in a while.
well, and the thing is, the third one wasn't like the comedy played second fiddle to a really just kind of intriguing, fun action movie. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, and the comedy started to hit a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just because the older one was outdated. But I mean, anyways, so it actually.
Well, I'm sorry to Bad Boys for putting you in the same, lumping you together with Garfield movie.
Wow, Liam.
And Inside Out too, which I've heard people like. Like I think people like Inside Out in that world.
Nathaniel says
for
if the
me.
trend continues, then Bad Boys 6 will be the greatest movie ever created.
Exponential growth.
So yeah, that's what I would say about movies. If you're out there, again, I know Bad Boys is a sequel. I know that Top Gun was a sequel, and so they can be good. But I think what you need to keep an eye out for is original stuff, things that are original, and things that hopefully don't seem like they would just be pushing really woke messages down your throat. I think both of those things have just exhausted people.
Yeah.
So that's what I'd say. Keep an eye out for.
Any movies coming out you're looking forward to, Greg?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
With Deadpool and Wolverine, I mean,
I'll
it's
see
gonna be
it.
it's gonna be this. So I thought the first one was very funny. I thought the second one was more of the same. Which again, it's Ryan Reynolds just being goofy, and I'm like, that's funny.
That's
it's worth a
fine.
watch and a
Yeah.
laugh. I think this one will be the same thing. So I don't think it'll be anything groundbreaking, but it'll be worth seeing and laughing at, I guess. But
Yeah.
other than that, no. I mean, what about you? Anything?
There's there's a couple like down the pipe that haven't actually had a release date.
Well, I take that back. Sorry, we started off by me saying so Trap seems interesting
Sure.
to me, and
Yeah.
there's one other one that struck a little bit of interest with me that has who's the guy that played in Split, and he
Oh yeah. I know who you're talking about.
British guy
James McAvoy.
McAvoy. There
Yeah.
you go.
I saw that trailer as well.
Yeah, so there's some intrigue there. He plays like a there's a couple who gets to know this other couple who invites them to like their cottage, and they're like, oh, this is really nice, and then you slowly start to realize that the couple that invited them there are like psychos.
Yeah. James
And-
McAvoy's ripped.
Yeah, and he's
huge.
jacked. He's a great actor. So there was at least a little bit of intrigue there. Again, it seems like it wouldn't necessarily have a whole lot of woke messaging, and it seems like an original idea. So there, check the boxes for me to have a little interest.
Yeah.
So,
There's one movie
don't know the name though.
called Wolves. Have you heard of this?
oh, and this one's got
The two-headed
yeah,
monster.
It's got Brad Pitt, and I don't know. That one just seemed too goofy. Did you see the trailer?
The Clunster.
Clooney and
No, I haven't seen the trailer.
Okay, watch
I
the
don't even think
trailer.
I want to watch it.
So this is the thing. I thought the same thing when I saw the cover picture and kind of heard what. And then I watched the trailer, and it's going to be like a comedy.
It's gonna be like yeah. You ever see Burn After Reading?
Yeah.
It might be like in that world kind of, which I loved Burn After Reading.
Is it the same director?
That's a good question.
I feel like that Burn
seems
After
like it's
Reading
gonna
is
be that.
extremely unique. I don't know if anything will be like that.
Yeah, no, not like that, but like similar like type comedy maybe.
Oh, you know what else?
No, it's not. It's the guy that did the Spider-Man movies.
There's a
The Tom Holland Spider-Man.
there's one I'm interested in with who's the guy? He's doing a western. It's called oh goodness gracious. He does Yellowstone. What's the guy's name?
Oh, Kevin Costner?
Costner. Yeah, I think he's
Horizon, a saga.
yeah, I think
like
it's just called Horizon or something.
Yeah, but it's like Saga 1. or
Yeah.
like part 1.
But
or
it
something.
seemed I just have a lot of like I just think that he'll do a good job. Like he seems
Oh, he's found his lane.
yeah, he
with
seems
those
really
Western
sold
type
out
stuff.
for it, and he's I think it could be really good. But yeah, that's what
We're,
I'm excited
we're
for.
optimists here.
Optimus Prime.
I don't know why we are sometimes, but we are.
All right, so we actually do have a plan moving forward. Hooray, guys! So on Thursday, Thursday is July 4th in 2 weeks.
But I thought Nathaniel can't do Thursdays anyway.
Next month he's off. That's what I told. I'm pretty sure I told. Oh, you know what? Maybe I told him. Okay, so we're gonna figure this out on air right now. What was the date that I told him? I swear, if I said the 4th, yeah. Well, okay.
Well, it's not like a notable date, so like I could see how you get that mixed up.
Yeah,
with, like, a
I didn't
normal-
do the math that it
the
was
4th of
July.
July.
I was like, All right, so
Yeah,
TBD, but our next guest will be Riley Mulkey, and we will be watching Godzilla Minus One.
Hulkster.
I'm pretty excited. He's a good friend of ours, and I also really liked Godzilla Minus One, so I'm looking forward to watching it again.
Good choice, Riley.
We were going to go back to Thursdays in a couple weeks, which would be July 4th. That was the plan. We might need to rethink that. Maybe we do Tuesday on the 2nd that week. I think Nathaniel's schedule will be back to normal, so we can do that. I'll have to double check with Riley, but that is the plan for the next show. And we are, man, we're excited. I think we're gonna keep rolling like this with season 2. We'll probably, hopefully, at the end of the next show, have a little bit of a plan for you guys on what the kind of like the future is gonna look like here for the next for like, you know, wrapping up season 2, you know, what we'll do with making our short film, and then, you know, kind of what to expect in season 3. But we'll keep you guys updated on that on our next show. Yeah. So
Cool. You got anything?
Nathaniel, you got anything to add here at the end? Anything to wrap us up at all?
Now's your shot.
No?
All right.
Okay.
That's okay.
Well, with that being said, Nathaniel, what do you want to say to the people, Liam?
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Smash that subscribe button, and we'll see you when Mr. Mulkey comes.